let's unpack this. We have a truly fascinating stack of material today, focusing almost entirely on national developments in El Salvador. We're looking at late September 2025.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting time. You've got these big headlines, major economic news, international praise, but then, boom, right up against some serious domestic problems.
Exactly. It feels very contradictory, doesn't it? Big wins clashing with, crippling service failures and fiscal worries.
That's the core of it. What's fascinating here is how clearly these stories connect the macro policy decisions. Think digital finance, security strategy, directly to the micro, the everyday life of citizens, like the water crisis we'll get into.
Right. So you listening, you're going to see how these big government moves trickle down, sometimes in unexpected ways.
Our mission today is really to get past those surface headlines, give you the context, the implications of these top national stories coming out of El Salvador right now.
We're going deep on the economy, justice, infrastructure, all centered around these late September 2025 reports. But first, we have a standard audio insertion we need to play. It's from one of the outlets providing our source material.
Yep, a necessary part of the process. Let's hear it.
Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Greetings to our listeners in the United States, in Michigan, California, and New York. Welcome to the News El Salvador SV podcast, a space for conversation and reflection where we explore current events in El Salvador and the world together. We are now on TuneIn radio platforms worldwide and on Pandora for the United States only. We are now connected so you can search for us. Find us too for free on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or on your favorite podcast platform. Find us on PayPal. The username is in the description of this podcast's content. Remember, your contributions help pay the bills so we can provide content. We are News El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, and comment.
All right, now diving straight into the economy, and there are some genuinely strong points here, right? Oh, absolutely. The export sector, for instance. The data for the first 8 months of 2025, it shows really solid growth.
How much growth are we talking?
We're looking at Salvadoran exports up 6.5% compared to the same period last year.
6.5%. That's not trivial. That suggests real momentum.
It really does. It points to, a healthy manufacturing base, continued global demand for Salvadoran goods, and the monthly figures back that up.
Like August.
Exactly. August alone saw exports hitting $540.9 million worldwide. That shows strong activity heading into the year's final stretch.
And this isn't just happening on its own, is it? There's active government effort behind this.
Right. The reports talk about successful economic diplomacy. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs apparently secured somewhere between $18 million and $18.4 million in foreign investment during 2025.
Okay, so that's tangible results from international outreach, bringing in needed capital.
Definitely. Now, if we shift focus a bit, look at how the government's managing its own capital, especially with its digital finance strategy. Well, that's where things get really unique for El Salvador.
You mean Bitcoin?
Primarily, yes.
Yeah.
Two big things stand out. First, they're still adding to the National Bitcoin Reserve. Over 50 Bitcoins added just in the month leading up to these reports.
50 more, so they're doubling down on that strategy.
Seems like it. It deepens the state's exposure, makes cryptocurrency an even more central part of their national wealth strategy.
And it's not just the National Reserve, right? Public companies are involved too. I saw something about Legeo.
Yes, Legeo, the geothermal energy company. They used $4.2 million specifically for the Bitcoin City project.
$4.2 million from the geothermal company for Bitcoin City.
Which, brings up that whole risk-reward discussion. It's something you, as a listener trying to understand this, really need to consider.
Explain that a bit more, the risk side.
Well, holding Bitcoin, especially adding more, offers potential big upsides, right?
Yeah.
Financial independence, global attention. But it also injects massive volatility into the national balance sheet.
So if the market tanks?
The state's strategic reserve takes an immediate hit. And when a state company like Legeo, which handles critical infrastructure like geothermal power, when it diverts $4.2 million away from maybe, say, maintaining existing power plants.
Towards a speculative project like Bitcoin City.
The opportunity cost is huge. That's money not going into core services today.
So it's not just abstract market risk. It could impact things like credit ratings, the cost of borrowing for other projects.
Precisely. If crypto volatility drains resources or shakes confidence, it could actually starve essential services of capital. It's a really high-stakes gamble, tying traditional development funds directly to a very speculative asset.
Okay, that context is crucial, which leads us nicely, or maybe not so nicely, into the other side of the economic coin, the warning signs.
Yeah, the red flags. Because alongside that export growth, you have this alarming debt situation.
How alarming?
Public debt. By August 2025, it had already surpassed the total debt accumulated in all of 2024.
Wow. Okay, that trajectory is worrying. Spending, financing gaps, interest. Something's accelerating way beyond sustainable levels.
And that surging debt shines a harsh light on the pension system. Pension reform isn't just being discussed, it's becoming unavoidable. The current financial state pretty much mandates it to prevent a total collapse.
And the experts are saying what needs to happen, because pension reform is always politically explosive.
Extremely. But the consensus seems clear. The reforms must do 3 tough things.
Okay, where are they?
First, raise the retirement age by 3 to 5 years. Second, require more years of contributing service. And third, increase the cotization rates.
Let's break that down. Cotization rates. That's the percentage of your salary you have to pay into the pension fund.
Exactly. If that goes up, workers take home less pay instantly. It's needed because fewer workers are supporting more retirees, plus the overall financial instability.
And raising the retirement age by 3 to 5 years, that messes up people's life plans significantly.
Hugely. It's a major shock, and there is a deadline looming, isn't there?
Yeah, this week is critical. The actuarials studied the math behind these painful decisions has to be presented now.
But the actual law, the reform itself, isn't expected until February 2026.
That's the timeline mentioned. Gives the government a few months to brace for the public reaction, I suppose, because fundamentally it's less benefits, more contributions. Tough sell.
A very tough sell. Okay, so that's the complex financial picture. Let's shift gears now. Security.
Right, and here the story is quite different, at least internationally. Lots of praise coming El Salvador's way.
A lot. The biggest, perhaps, came from the U.S. president during a UN speech. Actually thanked El Salvador publicly.
Thank them for what, specifically?
For helping the U.S. to imprison so many criminals. That's a direct quote highlighted in the reports.
Okay, imprisoning criminals, what's the context there? Because that sounds loaded.
It is. It's tied directly to that controversial U.S. policy deporting immigrants and alleged criminals, not just back home, but sometimes to third countries. El Salvador has been one of those receiving countries.
Ah, I see. So by taking in and jailing these deportees, El Salvador is seen as helping U.S. domestic security.
Exactly. Which explains the very public, very high-level thank you. It cements a kind of strategic relationship there.
And it wasn't just the U.S., right? Europe chimed in too.
Yep. Alves Perez, a member of the European Parliament, also publicly praised the president's security policies, highlighting the positive transformations they've brought.
So getting endorsements from both the U.S. and Europe, that gives the current security strategy a lot of political cover internationally.
Immense political capital. But domestically, it's still nuanced.
How so? Is there pushback?
There is, but it's specific. Take Claudia Ortiz from the Vamos party. She actually admitted that people feel safer, that there's been a real improvement in security.
Okay, there's always a but.
But she still rejects the framework used to achieve it, the state of exception.
Okay, so she acknowledges the results lower crime, but disagrees with the method.
Precisely. Her argument, and that of others, focuses on the constitutional side effects. Suspending rights, mass detentions, lack of due process. They argue effective security shouldn't require abandoning those core legal principles.
So that creates this ongoing internal tension, even with the drop in violence. Success versus method.
That's the heart of the domestic debate. Meanwhile, the justice system keeps making headlines with specific actions.
Like the zero homicide days. I saw September 22nd was another one.
Yep, those milestones get huge positive press. And then there's specific cases, like the action against that public transport driver.
Oh, the drunk driving case.
Right. Joel Alexander Gamero Cortez, 22 years old, driver for Route 41D, got caught driving drunk, caused an accident in Soyapango.
What was the outcome?
Suspended from driving for 3 years, plus condemned to public works. And the reports really emphasize that 3-year driving ban.
So it sends a message. It's not just about gangs. It's about everyday law and order, road safety too.
Exactly. It shows the system cracking down on various fronts.
Yeah.
Which makes the next topic even more striking.
Let me guess. Water.
Water. We pivot from security success, internationally praised, to this desperate ongoing crisis in basic services. It's quite the contrast.
Thousands of people struggling while the macro picture looks, well, better in some areas.
And the press is digging into the failures of ANDA, the National Water and Sewer Administration. There was a study mentioned highlighting 3 core problems consumers face.
Okay, what are these 3 problems? Because this gets to the heart of people's frustration.
First, billing issues. getting charged incorrectly or charged when there's no service at all.
Infuriating. What else?
Second, terrible service and repair times. Leaks, pipe breaks.
Yeah.
Taking ages to fix.
So water is just lost and people go without for longer. And the third?
Poor customer service. Just trying to report a problem or find out when water might come back is apparently a nightmare. It's bureaucratic failure on top of crumbling pipes.
And this translates to just no water for people.
In many areas, yes. Parts of the San Salvador metropolitan area, Santa Tecla, they're facing ongoing severe shortages. Not just low pressure, but taps running dry for days.
And here's where it gets really immediate, right? This isn't just an inconvenience.
No, it's critical. The reports have these heartbreaking quotes. People saying, we don't even have water to bathe.
That's dire. And I read something about people fighting over water.
Yes, fighting over access at public taps or distribution trucks. That's how bad it is. The system failure is creating real social friction, a kind of survival pressure.
So how is this being handled politically? Is anyone taking responsibility?
Well, there's definitely finger pointing. One editorial specifically called out the new NDA president.
What about him?
He apparently claimed he had nothing to do with the disastrous state of the water system.
Despite being the new boss?
Right. And the editorial pointed out he'd actually worked at NDA in various roles for 15 years before becoming president.
Oof. So, trying to dodge responsibility for problems that developed partly on his watch.
That's the critique. It suggests a pattern of, avoiding institutional accountability for long-term neglect.
And adding insult to injury, didn't they just have severe storms too? Putting even more pressure on services?
Exactly. Tropical waves hit, causing emergencies, especially in San Salvador Centro. Authorities were stretched thin.
Dealing with what? Flooding?
Flooding, yes, but also a huge landslide, a spillover in La Sabana and Merlia. Major cleanup needed. Civil protection deployed.
And presumably, they still had to deliver emergency water to the areas already suffering shortages.
Correct. So they're managing the storm fallout and trying to plug the gaps in the failing water system simultaneously. It just highlights how fragile the whole infrastructure is. It can't handle decay and a crisis at the same time.
A really tough situation on the ground. Okay, let's shift slightly to broader policy and administration. There was a big budget approval.
Yeah, $250 million from the World Bank was approved by the National Assembly to be integrated into the 2025 budget.
$250 million. That's significant. World Bank money.
Very significant. Shows continued support from major lenders. But there's a catch highlighted in the reports.
What's the catch?
The specific destinations for that money. They weren't fully defined for the Ministry of Finance when it was approved.
So $250 million comes in, but it's not clearly earmarked for specific projects or needs.
Apparently not fully detailed at the time of approval, which, given the debt situation we discussed, is concerning. It raises transparency questions.
And are others raising those questions internationally?
Yes. The U.S. specifically suggested El Salvador publish more info on public contracts and procurement. It's a nudge towards greater fiscal transparency.
Especially when dealing with large international loans, where normally the money is tied to specific goals, right?
Usually, yes. Undefined funds can make accountability tricky.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this seems like a recurring theme, doesn't it? The push for development versus the need for transparency.
Absolutely. It's that constant tension. You need to build fast, fix things fast, but if oversight slips, well, you get the kind of stories we saw reported this week about mismanagement.
Like the schools. That story was shocking.
The $8.5 million.
Yeah.
Delivered by the DOM, the Directorate of Municipal Works, to a company.
Which then just abandoned the work on 7 schools.
Completely abandoned it. 7 school projects left unfinished. That's a massive loss, especially when the government talks about transforming education.
And $8.5 million just gone. It points to huge failures in how contracts are awarded and monitored, doesn't it?
Massive failures. Where did the money go? Is the company being pursued? Those are the questions. And that loss directly adds to the debt burden.
It's not just the big projects either, is it? There was that other case, much smaller scale.
Right. The municipal employees caught delivering a fake construction permit. They collected, what, about $352?
Yeah, $352.38. Seems small, but it shows that corruption or mismanagement isn't just a high-level thing. It can happen in everyday interactions with local government.
Exactly. It erodes public trust at all levels. And we also saw financial strain reported in state-affiliated companies.
Which one?
The Sociedad de Mercados, the Market Society. They manage the public market.
Then they're losing money.
Accumulated $5.2 million in losses, according to the reports. That's the infrastructure supporting thousands of small vendors and farmers running at a significant deficit.
Which might mean future bailouts using taxpayer money.
Potentially, yes. It all points back to systemic issues in managing public resources effectively and transparently, even while other parts of the economy, like exports, are doing well.
It's such a mixed bag. Okay, before we get into the social and cultural side, we have that second mandatory audio insertion.
Right, time for the midpoint break with the source audio.
Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Greetings to our listeners in the United States, in Michigan, California, and New York. Welcome to the News El Salvador SV podcast, a space for conversation and reflection where we explore current events in El Salvador and the world together. We're now on TuneIn radio platforms worldwide and on Pandora for the United States only. We are now connected so you can search for us. Find us too for free on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or on your favorite podcast platform. Find us on PayPal. The username is in the description of this podcast's content. Remember, your contributions help pay the bills so we can provide content. We are News El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, and comment. Okay, we're back. Let's turn our attention now to education and social norms. What's happening in the schools?
Well, there's continued focus on transforming education, partly through physical upgrades. Remodeling schools is ongoing.
Fixing the buildings, that's important, especially after hearing about those abandoned projects. What about inside the classroom?
Big focus on discipline. Schools started the Civic Month with a new system of demerits, following directives from the Ministry of Education.
A demerit system, so a more formalized way of tracking student behavior.
Seems like it. A deliberate move towards reinforcing control and perhaps certain values.
Which brings us to the haircut thing.
Ah, yes. The haircut controversy. It actually made headlines. Schools specifically banned the Edgar-style haircut.
The Edgar cut. I've seen that. It's popular online, right? TikTok famous.
Exactly. Hugely popular with teenagers globally. So banning it, it's more than just hair.
What does it signify, do you think?
It feels like the ministry trying to push back against external, maybe global youth culture influences, asserting a more traditional image or standard within schools. It turns a hairstyle into a symbol of, well, institutional authority versus teen trends.
Interesting how something seemingly small like a haircut can become such a focal point. While new rules come in, though, there was also an end of an era.
Yes, a nod to tradition. Oscar Malara retired after 33 years as director of INTI, the National Technical Industrial Institute. A long tenure ending just as things modernized.
33 years. Wow. Okay, now we need to shift to some much tougher topics, tragic cases that were in the news.
Yes, these are difficult but important. They provide that critical counterpoint to the positive security stats. The most prominent was the death of Professor Manuel Mira.
Professor Mira. He died after being released from detention, right?
22 days after being released from a penal center. The reports identify him as the 447th person reported to have died in the context of the state of exception regime.
447. And he was the second teacher to die under these circumstances.
That's what was reported. And his family claims he suffered mistreatment while incarcerated.
This case, it really puts a human face on the costs of the security crackdown, doesn't it? Especially when it's a professional, a teacher.
Absolutely. It forces that difficult conversation about the trade-offs being made. Security gains versus individual rights, and, tragically, lives lost within the system. That number, 447, is just stark.
A very sobering statistic. There was also a tragic story involving a child.
Yes, a desperate search for a missing 3-year-old boy in Morazan gripped the nation. Sadly, later reports confirmed he was found drowned. Just heartbreaking.
Awful news. Amidst these tragedies, was there any positive news on the humanitarian or community front?
There was one item highlighted support for women entrepreneurs. 162 women-led micro-enterprises received economic aid, a boost for community-level development.
Okay, good to hear about that initiative. Now let's round things out with sports and culture. There was a major sports controversy.
A really ugly one, actually. Racism in football.
Oh, no. What happened?
During a match at the Cuscatlan Stadium, Salvadoran fans hurled racist insults at players from the Surinamese team.
That's terrible. How was it covered?
Editorials across the press called it shameful and condemnable. It clearly caused national embarrassment.
Was there an official response?
Yes, thankfully. FESFIT, the Football Federation, immediately announced they're launching a campaign against racism, trying to address it head-on and repair the damage.
Good. On the less controversial side of football, some financial news.
Yeah, the business side. The president of the club, Aguila, confirmed that firing their coach, Daniel Messina, would cost the club about $60,000. Just shows the money involved, even in personnel changes.
$60,000. Wow. And the national team is gearing up.
Yep. La Selecta is preparing for the October FIFA matches. Hopes are always high there. And work continues on the new national stadium project.
Okay, shifting to culture, some huge news there.
Massive. Orquesta Los Hermanos Flores confirmed for Coachella 2026.
Los Hermanos Flores at Coachella. That's incredible global recognition for an iconic Salvadoran band.
Huge deal. Really puts them on the world stage. But unfortunately, the good news was mixed with some bad.
What happened?
One of the band members was involved in a traffic accident recently, and that was reported right alongside the Coachella news. A bit of a shadow over the celebration.
Oh, that's tough timing. Hopefully they're okay. Any other cultural notes or international bits?
Just a couple of things to mention. Starbucks actually highlighted the architecture of its branch in the historic center of San Salvador, which is interesting recognition for the restoration efforts there.
Nice. And tourism.
Reports noted tourism growth down in Puerto El Triunfo, with local businesses benefiting. So some positive signs on that front.
And just to wrap up the international sports scene briefly.
The Ballon d'Oro for 2025 was announced. Ousmane Dembélé won the men's award, Aitana Bonmati the women's. And because it's football, there was controversy, Neymar complaining about Rafinha's low ranking.
Always drama in football. Okay, I think that covers the main ground.
It really does. It's been a deep dive.
So just to recap for everyone listening, you've now got a comprehensive view of what was hitting the headlines in El Salvador in late September 2025. This real duality, right?
Absolutely. The economy showing strong exports, attracting investment, but also facing staggering debt and the absolute necessity of painful pension reform.
Then there's the security success, praised by the U.S. president, by European officials, running right alongside this desperate daily struggle for water, fueled by crumbling infrastructure and seemingly political deflection.
And the human cost, like the tragic death of Professor Mira under the state of exception, contrasting sharply with 0 homicide days.
We saw how big international loans raise transparency questions, how $8.5 million for schools can just vanish, and how even something like a haircut becomes a national debate about social norms.
It's a country juggling so many things at once. Macro achievements and micro-level failures, international praise, and intense domestic challenges.
So what's the final takeaway? What should you, the listener, be thinking about?
Well, the sources really lay bare this contrast. A nation getting global applause for its tough security measures, while simultaneously grappling with these deep, persistent failures in basic infrastructure like water, and real questions about financial transparency.
So the provocative thought to leave you with is this.
Which challenge is going to be more critical for El Salvador's stability in the near future? Is it maintaining those hard-won security gains, maybe while addressing the constitutional concerns? Or is it fixing the core public services, the water, the funding accountability that affect everyone, every single day?
And if you were tracking progress, what specific information, what data points would you look for next to see if things are genuinely improving on that front? Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about.
We hope this deep dive has given you the detailed context you need to make sense of these complex and often contradictory headlines.